Why and what is uncurated conversations? The why is my fascination with conversation, my fascination with people, my fascination with finding out who are you, where do you come from, why did you make that decision? Stories are important. Our society is built on stories, and it's within those stories where we find resilience and hope. And my goal is that we can find that resilience and hope in each of the guests that I invite over and we have a conversation with. And for me, that is why I am fascinated by not only people, but by stories and conversations. And what is uncurated conversations? Uncurated conversations is a platform hosted by me, Mlamli Mayosi, where I'm going to be inviting guests to have a conversation with me over a coffee. And these guests might be a homeless person, someone I don't know. Could be a friend of mine, someone I know very well. Or it could be someone I see from far and I think that they have an interesting story and I would like to know more. What I do know is that we're going to have difficult conversations. We're going to have fun conversations. And through those type of conversations, hopefully you can find something that resonates with you, within my guest, and hopefully it will be of benefit to you and me. Welcome to Uncurated Conversations with me, your host, Mlamli Mayosi. My guest today is Laura Strugnell. Laura is an artistic swimming athlete who represented South Africa at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics with her duet partner, Clarissa Johnston. In this episode, Laura and I discuss where it all began and also the journey to the Olympics and life after the Olympics. The rest, I'll leave it to Laura. Laura Strugnell.
Going to the Olympics, people really, or being an elite athlete or having muscle, looking the way you do, people judge you. Oh, you're just born like that. No. I worked hard to get to this level, I worked hard to be in the shape that I am. I wasn't always like this. Mm-hmm. I was actually chubby. There's a lot of judgment around it. And, oh, well, you're just good naturally. Or, oh, you had this opportunity. Or you were given, like the rest of the world, you were given the spot. Okay, but we also had to do all this other stuff to get there, we had to give up our jobs. Our coach had to pay for us to live. Kinds of things like that. People judge you all the time from the outside and they don't really know what's happening on the inside. So it's hard. It's hard to be seen as like somebody who's achieving so much, but you give up so much. A lot of crying in this thing. But it's true, like you give up, there's so many things you give up personally in your personal life that you don't get to experience. But I chose that. I chose my sports instead of friends. I chose my sport instead of a relationship. You know, I chose my sport and work instead of my family half the time. You know, it's those things that they don't see. And then when you come back and you don't have your sports anymore, it's like you only have the people that are still there who saw through that, you know, which is a good thing. You don't want superficial people in your life, but you have to build a new life all over again. And I don't regret it or want to go back or anything, because I chose that and I knew very well that was what I was choosing and that's what I wanted to do. And I know I chose that because I made that decision full well knowing that. It's just hard, and it's hard to be motivated to train with nothing now. Like, you know, you're not an athlete anymore, so how do you just be normal?
Because that's all that you know, right? All your life you've done this.
You have a goal. You have to find how to have different goals and how to be a different person. And so it's a new chapter, and it's hard in a different way, and challenging, and also sometimes exciting, but it's lonely.
First, tell me about Dubai. I mean, about Abu Dhabi. How did the competition go?
Good. It was really nice. Like, I'm very happy that I went. I was actually in a really good space, and the competition was so nice. Like, the hosts were wonderful. They even awarded me with a prize. Wow. They made this glass thing that said, for recognition of all the dedication and hard work for Olympics and into the sport, and they gave me another, like, 2 awards basically.
But just was this from the organizing committee of the tournament?
Yeah,
okay.
And just for recognition. So there was 3 Olympic swimmers there from different countries, me, a girl from Egypt, and then a lady from Russia.
Okay.
And all 3 of us, they awarded us just for recognition.
Oh, wow.
Which is so nice, because you often don't actually get, I said to them, I haven't even got the recognition from my own country. You know, this is more than what I've gotten from South Africa. Wow. And so that was very special. And then the competition was just so friendly. There was no politics. There was no drama. It was so great. And my girls came fourth.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah, so they came forth. They were really happy with the results. I was happy with the results.
Was there like a prior goal as to where you want to come in?
No, it was just to go and have fun. We had no idea where we would mark at, but I think the competition was, we were right in the middle of the competition, like the middle of the pack.
Right.
So there were girls that were better, we were in the middle, and then there were girls that were slightly lower, and so it was quite nice because we weren't at the bottom,
right?
You know, and they weren't too good, so they were in the middle, which was great. So for me, as my first competition as a coach, it was really nice.
I was going to ask you, how did that feel? Were you nervous as a first one out of the country, or no?
No, I wasn't nervous because I had done everything I needed to do as a coach, and there's nothing more you can do when the swimmers swim. And I wish I had known this when I was swimming, because you, as a swimmer, you're constantly worried, have I done enough? The coach knows you've done enough because they've done everything they can. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, I should have just listened to them. But you don't. You think like, and why am I so nervous? But all it is just, it's exactly the same in training.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it would have changed my view on things if I had coached a little bit before. So, I don't know. Anyways, it was great. I wasn't even nervous. I mean, a little bit nervous that they might make a mistake, but there's nothing you can do.
Sure.
They're swimming. Everything's up to them now. There's nothing more you can do. And they swam really well. They just wanted to impress me, and like they were just really swimming for them and for me.
Right.
So that was great.
But you know, it's interesting you say that if you'd known this prior to your synchro career, you would have either performed much better or had less nerves going into
it's just
competition.
like a trust thing, you know, like you trust your coaches and you've done all the work, but you don't fully, it's just still that little bit of nerves that like, have I done enough? Am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to mess it up?
Right.
Kind of thing. But actually, like, it's exactly the same as in practice.
You know what I think about while you're saying that, because you look at, I follow a little bit of football and a bit of rugby, but you're getting a different set of players now, older players that are lasting longer in the game. And I think some of it speaks to what you're saying, is that the older you get, the more you know, okay, I don't need to sprint every single time to a ball, as an example in soccer. You know, you read the game.
More mature athletes are.
That's right.
And every coach will tell you that they would pick a mature athlete over a young athlete.
Right.
Especially unless the mature athlete isn't producing results. But if you're producing results and you're just they will take the mature athlete over the young athlete any day, because your mind is different when you're training, when you're competing, all of that. Like your mind, when you're young, you don't understand so much. You know, it's just different. I don't know how to describe it, but I know from my own experience from being like training now and training when I was 15, 16. It's two different. Like, I know what I want. I know what I need to do.
Right.
And I know how to get there. When you're 15 or whatever, like, it's almost as if you don't. I don't know how to describe it, but you don't know that you need to put in that amount of work to get there. Okay. I don't know. Right. It's really weird. But yeah, I promise you, like, any coach will tell you they'll take the mature athletes over the young athletes if they're performing. Obviously, if they're not up to scratch physically, then they have to take the younger ones. Okay. Yeah.
Let's take it there to the young Laura and where it all started.
the young 5-year-old.
The young Laura, who was born in Benoni, right?
Yeah. Benoni.
You know, so I think you guys should have like a little Benoni Oscars or something like that, because so many famous, whether it's actors or sportsmen and women, are from originate from Benoni. Is where it starts.
I wonder what it is. I don't know. I mean, it's not as bad as everybody says it is. It's very ugly looking. Like, it's very brown
industrial,
and flat.
Yes. It's on the east side of Joburg.
Yeah, but the people are really nice. I think maybe also a bit of like the culture is a bit different. So when I talk about like the culture, like the mindset culture,
how is that mindset culture there?
The parents are not so like controlling, I think, and like forcing the kids to do XYZ and you must do this and that. It's quite like a culture. Well, when I was there, you know, they support you, but you do what, if you want to do that sport, you do that sport. If you're doing it, you have to do it.
Right.
You can't just leave and go. Like, not a lot of people I remember in school would do a sport for like 5 minutes and then leave and go and do another sport. If you did that sport, you stayed and you did that sport.
Right.
That's how I remember it. So, but nowadays, it's the kids, they do a sport for 5 minutes. They don't want to do it anymore. They do another sport for 5 minutes. And so they chop and change.
Right.
All of that. Right. And I think, that's the culture in that sense of like, you don't just get to like sort of dictate how things work. Your parents will still in charge, and you do that. There's consequences. There's for your actions. Those kinds of things.
Right.
You know,
right.
I guess sort of the old school.
So that's how you grew up, in that sort of environment where you had to stick to whatever you chose to do.
Yeah, and if you want to be successful, you have to work hard.
Right. But were your parents also in that sort of mindset as, were your parents sportsmen and women?
So my dad was into like motorbike racing and stuff like that. And I guess quite competitive in that sense. I don't recall him being very sporty.
Okay.
In terms of like doing other sport.
Right.
My mom was quite sporty when she was in school and stuff. But yeah, I think I didn't come from a very rich family, so that we always had to work hard.
Right.
You know, my mom especially worked hard. She owns her own practice. She's a physiotherapist, so she, for her whole life, has supported the family.
Right.
And my dad as well, but my dad is a bit like, this is where I get my mindset of like, I dream. So if I just see something that I want to do or think I can do, then I just jump in without thinking about it.
Okay.
How am I going to do it? Where am I going to go? Like, just go.
Right.
And then when you're in it, you're like, oh no. Oh no.
Now I need to figure this out.
Now I need to figure this out. Like, I should have thought of this before I just jumped in with, all my clothes on or something.
Right.
So that's where I get that from. So I'm proud of it because I think that's what makes me who I am.
Right.
But along the way, it's like I've rushed to do everything. Like I'm always in a rush to do everything. And I've been like that, I think, since I was born. I was just born early.
Oh, really?
My mom says, she's a rush to get you. Whereas my mom is more of the, like, I guess, like, stable sort of. She's done this physiotherapy and she has her own practice and she's been supporting the family and working hard. And so I get that from her.
Right.
And then, like, just, I think just learning from both of them or having
Well, it sounds like the normal
personalities.
yin and yang type of relationship where, where your mom is the calming effect and then your
I wouldn't
dad
say calming, but
the high octane motorbike guy, your
Yes,
dad, and then your mom is the physio.
She's the realist.
Exactly.
And my dad's was the dreamer,
Right.
and just did what he wanted to do. Which
So
is
now
totally
in Benoni, attended primary school there.
Yes. So I went to primary school, and then my sisters both did synchro. My older sister actually started synchro in high school.
How old was she?
I think she must have been in grade 8. So what is that, like 14?
Okay.
14, I think.
Right. So you've got 2 siblings.
Yeah. So I had 3.
Right. Yes.
There was actually 6 of us.
Okay.
My dad had 2 from a previous marriage.
Okay.
Much older than us, and then 4 with my mom.
Right.
So there were 6 of us.
Okay.
There is now only 4 of us.
Right.
Left. Both brothers. So my half brother and my full brother. I don't know what you call it. Full brother.
Yeah, your biological brother.
Biological brother passed away.
Okay.
So yeah, and then there's 4 girls left.
So in your biological family, are you the second, third boy?
I'm the baby.
You're the baby. I'll say that also.
I'm the baby, and my mom had me, and then went back to work like 2 weeks later.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then so my gran would look after me. My mom worked from home, so she had her practice at home. So it's not like she wasn't there. But I think like I was quite independent from young, and after 4 kids, my mom and my dad are like, you can survive on your own. Like, you've got siblings, they'll help you.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, so the firstborn always gets all the drama because he's the first one, so he's the first experience.
Yeah.
Then the ones in the middle, so the parents have learned from the first, so they forget about the one in the middle. The one at the end it goes either way. You either get spoilt by your siblings and then your parents because you're the last one, or everyone's like, You're the last one. You're the fourth one. We've been here 3 times already. So
yeah, you could
carry
just.
on.
So I think I was a little bit spoilt in the fact that like I never got smacked.
Okay.
Like when I was a child, I never really got into trouble.
Okay.
And then, I mean, I wasn't too naughty, but yeah, I never really got into trouble, and I could sort of do whatever I wanted.
Right.
And I was a little bit spoiled as well because I was the youngest, so I was always, whenever the other siblings were out or whatever, I would be the one around. So when we went to the shops and stuff, oh gosh,
right.
you know, I got the
candy and the whatever,
everything,
yes.
and we would go to the shops with my mom and stuff. So I think like in a way spoiled, but also in a way like left to be independent and also I wanted to be like my sisters and my brother. So going back to synchro. My older sister did synchro and my middle sister, and all I wanted to do was be like them.
Right.
So all I wanted to do was do synchro because they did it. So I was with my gran, and we would watch them every day, wait for them after school while they finished, and then the coach had never coached a 5-year-old before. I mean, she'd only ever coached from older, 18 or 12, I don't know, if not 18,
right.
12 years old or whatever up. So she was like, well, you can only come and learn synchro if you can do 2 laps of the pool. If you can swim 2 laps without drowning, you can come and do synchro. So there's little Laura swimming up and down, trying to do 2 laps without stopping, with my gran on the side, walking up and down.
Shame, the poor woman, she must have been
on
her last nerve.
She literally was like, what can I do to make this girl, like, just leave me alone? And then I'm like, I'm done. I can do 2 laps, now what?
Right.
She's like, oh my gosh. So that's where it started, and started learning to do synchro at a young age. And there was
so did you start with swimming first and synchro, or was it just synchro from the bat?
Our neighbor used to teach learn to swim.
Okay.
So we all were water safe from young. Neither of my parents are swimmers. So we did not get our swimming gene from them.
Right.
There's no swimming genes there. But yeah, just water babies, and just actually like really learn to swim through synchro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't specifically go for like swimming lessons, just learn to swim.
Right.
And then synchro really, really helped me because you have to know how to swim.
Oh, jeez.
So it was just, surviving.
Yeah.
And copying and copying the older girls, and then and then practicing it. I'm very good at copying. Yeah, in my whole life, like if I watch something a couple of times, okay, and then
so
try it out and do it.
A photographic memory.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Right.
So and I guess that's where it comes from. It's just like watching and learning.
Right.
And then trying it out. And my whole synchro career is basically like that. And it still is. Like I look at things online. I research stuff all the time and then practice it and try to figure it out.
Right.
On my own and copy what the others are doing. So I guess it's quite like not everyone can.
No, not everyone's got the photographic memory.
Do that.
Definitely,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
So 5 years old is the first time you would say that you can remember that you were like, okay, the synchro thing, I can do it because I want to. I look up because I'm looking up to my sisters.
Yeah. Mostly, like I never really thought to. I didn't say like from 5 years old, I want to go to the Olympics.
Right.
So like I just wanted to be, I think for as long as I can remember, I just wanted to be as good as my sister.
Right. How good were they?
I mean, at the time, really
yes.
good, yeah. And my older sister was really good, and she was one of the top in South Africa, and she became my coach for a brief time.
Okay.
At the time, our coach left, and
was this now at school now while you're growing up, right?
And so her and a couple of the older girls that were swimming had to then step up and be coaches. And so she was my coach for quite a while. And then the coach that I had for Olympics, Vicky, she coached me for a little bit, and my sister together, and we actually swam together eventually.
Okay.
And then when I left school, I finished school, I decided to come to Cape Town.
Right.
Because basically, like, everybody that I had sort of swam with left and went to varsity and quit and whatever, so there wasn't really many people to continue with, and there was a bigger club in Cape Town.
Was there quite a big synchro community in Benoni, first of all, maybe, and then on the Greater in Joburg, where you could compete against other kids in other schools at that time, or how was synchro?
It doesn't. It goes through its phases where it's big, and then, well, big, I say big, like probably 60 athletes, swimmers. It's a really hard, it doesn't retain people very well, because you have to put a lot of time into it, and a lot of, you have to be good at a few things just to be able to do well. So when people don't see results quickly, they drop off. So if you had 10 people starting, you'd probably have only 3 stay out of the 10.
Right.
So you have to get masses of people to start, so that you could only have not even half of them stay.
And also, I think at that age with kids, because you have to start them at quite a young age, I guess, because you want to get them technically competent quite young.
Yeah.
And if in a child's mind, if she, because I'm assuming at the time, it's only women, girls, that, well, I've got a son, and I know 10-year-olds just want results now. And if they don't see results, then they lose interest.
Yeah, and they lose. It's really hard to keep them interested in it, especially if they're not getting results.
Yes.
So if you can find a way to keep it interesting and for them to get results, then they will stay. Another thing that I'm finding out slowly, and through all of the experiences overseas and talking to coaches and talking to, swimmers and stuff, how do they get their swimmers to stay? What do they do? A lot of it is the country culture, which is what I briefly spoke about, like the culture in Benoni.
Right.
But similar thing, like in Russia, you don't do sport for fun.
Okay.
That's what they say. You're here to learn. It's not for fun. So when you choose that sport, you stay unless they tell you to leave. And that's it. But again, the same thing is they've told me as well, is that you build connections with the kids. They must build like a team.
Okay.
So when you build those friendships, none of them want to leave, because you can attest to this, because I'm sure Paolo is the same, is that when there's all the friends, there's FOMO and all of that if they're not there, but also none of them want to go.
Yes.
Unless when 1 or 2 leave, then they'll all leave.
Right.
But if none of them leave, none of them want to leave, so then they all stay. And so you build that connection until they start to get results.
Right.
And then they stay because of the results, or because they want to work hard or whatever. And then they also stay because of the friendships. So that's what one coach told me, is to build a friendship, build a team, build a culture, a team culture in that. And if you build that, you can get them to stay.
Right. It's interesting because, and you're right. I mean, my son, he wants to just play with his mates and play rugby.
It doesn't matter if it's boring.
Doesn't matter if it's boring. He doesn't care even what team he's in, as long as he's with his mates, you know. And I think I think to take it further, and I think maybe kids don't really understand this. Maybe they do, but if you are the odd one out and you decide to leave, I think psychologically you feel like you're letting down the other group.
Yeah.
So you'll sort of, even if you might not like it, I don't know, but maybe you'll stay in because of that feeling that you're letting the other members down. So let me just stick it out. And also I'm there with my friends anyway.
Yeah, it's true. And then only when they get to an older age, they realize they can leave and because they don't like it anymore, they don't enjoy it, and they need to choose themselves over their friends so hopefully by that stage you've created a culture that's a healthy healthy environment, and that it doesn't matter about the results,
Right.
that it's more a team building, team bonding sort
But
of
I
thing
guess we
as
also
they're learning.
But I guess we're also speaking to team sports here, right? 'Cause
Yes.
the individual sports like a golfer or a tennis player, that's a different mindset altogether, with that child.
Yeah, it is. But I think in the individual sports, you could get a team because they train together.
Right. Okay. At that
So
age,
you
still
could, like
at a
with
young
swimming,
age.
they're all individual, but you've got a squad.
Right.
So it depends. Like, I think this is what makes a good coach, is learning how to build a good culture within your club or your sport. So, and that's what I'm currently focusing on going forward, is if I'm going to be a coach, is building how to build a good culture that's not a toxic, because I came from lots of toxic environments, toxic coaches, maybe some unknown issues from like built up from childhood that you don't realize actually affects you later. So it's just trying to figure out going forward. I want to build a good culture within synchro if I can, and then.
How was the culture when you were growing up as a 16-year-old synchro swimmer?
I think it was good. Like, I don't recall. I was always the youngest, so I didn't have too many friends at my age. So I didn't have that same like bond and culture bond with friends that the others did, and I sort of stayed because my sisters were there and like I looked up to them.
Right.
But I don't recall it being toxic at all. I do think that like we could have learned better technique and focus more on technique and stuff, that's a fine line, right? So if you're focusing on technique, it becomes boring.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, because it's repetitive.
Yeah. So now you've got to try and figure out how do we get good technique and
keep it interesting.
And make it fun and make them want to stay and stuff like that. So and then I think what happens is when a club starts to win, the culture starts to change, or the coach's ego starts to change, and then it all becomes about winning.
Right.
And then it's winning at the cost of the emotional state of the athletes, and becoming I think coaching without realizing you become a little bit emotionally abusive towards your athletes because you're not getting what you want from them.
Right.
And you don't have other people accountable to you as a coach to keep you accountable.
Right.
So I think it's really easy for people to fall into that, to slip into that, to like, you don't realize it, because I don't think people are always like, some people maybe, but I think ego gets in the way when you become a coach eventually, and you lose sight of what you actually there for, Why
do you think that is? Because you would think that you coach a sport for the love of the sport and to give back to the sport and your experiences as that the sport gave you, right? And then you can give it back to the youngsters. In most of the times, whether the 10-year age gap between the coach and the athlete, but you are always the oldest in that environment, So there's a mentorship type of relationship that also comes with that. But you mentioned winning at all costs, but where else does it come from as a coach? Do you think where does it change?
Power. I think power has a lot of things. Control over people. You see it in like politics and everything. When people get a certain amount of power over other people, they change. And so I think it's similar in coaching, is that when because I've felt it myself, is that when coaches get very controlling and then start to get upset with you when you set boundaries, and then you're seen as difficult, and you're seen as, a problem. But in actual fact, you're setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Because as you get older, you start to realize what is happening, and so you're able to set boundaries.
Yes, right.
And so I think it's definitely a case of like when people get power over other people or a situation or whatever. So coaches they have a lot of power over, especially young kids.
Young athletes, yeah.
Young
who
athletes.
don't have the vocabulary to be able to talk
or
for themselves.
Or don't understand or just do what you say because you're the older person.
And I mean, young athletes, a teenage athlete, where does he have the mental maturity to be able to set boundaries for themselves?
Yes.
They don't have that.
No, they don't.
Their brains haven't developed that. So, they don't have that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think then naturally people start to push and see how far they can push to get control over whatever. I think that's where it's come from. Like I think about it often, especially now, going into a little bit of coaching, and I'm afraid, like in all honesty, I'm afraid to step into that role as a coach because it's a lot of pressure, and I don't want to be like what I've experienced. But I think it's quite hard as well to like keep yourself in check, So it's I need to put my phone on silent.
No, thanks for that honesty. It's.
Let me just
I
put
think
this on silent. Sorry.
It's unacceptable.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Thanks for the honesty, because
A little tearing up a little bit.
No, it's fine. Because I think that, and I think it's a very important thing you're doing, because you mentioned it earlier on in terms of childhood trauma or drama, whatever. And if you are now, as a coach, have not had a self-check on yourself, and you take all your baggage and all your emotions, and then you pass all those on to the athletes, and so you repeat that cycle indirectly, without you even realizing it. You repeat that onto those athletes. So I think it's a very, very good and important process where you go through that self-introspection.
Yes.
And actually say, listen, I'm actually going through this, and it scares me because I don't want other kids to experience what I went through.
Yes, and often people who are like abused or whatever, they end up being
the abusers.
Like that too.
Yeah, 100%.
And like I was actually speaking to my coach Vicky about it and saying, like, we need to keep each other in check going forward. Like the coaches need to keep each other in check.
Right.
Because, and also when it starts to get competitive, then it starts to become a little bit nasty.
Yes.
Instead of reminding yourself that you need to do what's best for the athlete. And always what's best for the athlete, and not what's best for you. And I think like making sure that as a coach you don't become selfish.
It's the ego again, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so and making sure that you have somebody else to also keep you in check. Because otherwise what will happen is that we will create our own environment of synchro outside of the other environments, and then it starts to become competitive, and then we start to forget what what the purpose of it was, and we don't want it to be like that. So like having to keep each other in check as the coaches and as growing and stuff. Yeah, it is scary. And like you say, I think you have to continuously do development, self-development.
Definitely.
And what I've learned recently is setting expectations and having open communication with you and the athletes, even if they're young and they don't understand.
Right.
Allowing them to know that there's a space for them to also speak. They don't have to be afraid of speaking. You know, it's not a fear culture. We don't instill fear, because I think that's something that I took from childhood, is that I don't do well with boundaries. Like, I don't set boundaries well. And I've just always tried to impress or do my best so that I can get acknowledgement for it. And so I'll do that at any cost and then suffer later for it, instead of putting boundaries down and being like, okay, no, this is not good for me. Or saying no, just saying no. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yes. But you know, Laura, you speak to something so important, because we come from a culture, and that culture still exists in South Africa, where kids must be seen and not heard, number one, all right? And that fear of the parent. And when I say fear of the parent, that we hold the parent and the adult on a pedestal, and whatever they say or do is the truth, you know?
Yes.
So in that relationship, we always want to impress that adult, right? Because we know that if we don't impress them, then I'll get shouted at, things will happen if that. So as a child, you learn, okay, to make mom, dad, coach happy, I must do 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
If I don't do 1, 2, and 3, then there's going to be screaming, shouting, long faces, whatever it is, you know, extra laps in the pool. You
Exactly.
know, so you sort of like train to the core, or whatever, push yourself to the bone, because you know you want to impress that person.
Yes, yes.
And so I think what I'm hearing from you is that creates that culture of fear, because you're scared that if I don't then impress this person, and retribution's going to come my way.
Yeah, and
so,
fear of failure, and fear of getting things wrong, and like, it's all becomes a big thing. And then this is like, only I've learned about this of myself through the journey to Olympics.
Yeah.
And a lot of things came out in that journey, like of my own insecurities and my own issues in that journey. And then going forward as well, that like, I only just learned about it. And like you say, like doing things and not understanding why you have to do them. You don't get told. You don't get explained why. Even if you don't understand, like the little ones aren't going to understand, but you can still try to keep explaining and reinforcing, you know, you need to work hard to get this result.
Yes.
But it's okay if you don't want to. If you don't want that result, then that's fine. There's also these options.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
some kids don't want to be the top.
Yes.
Some kids do, you know, it's giving them options and making them understand why.
Right.
And I think for me going forward as a coach is like getting them to want to do that on their own. So understand this is what it takes to do this is what it takes to do this is what, and then now you choose.
Right.
You choose what path you want to take. I'll support you in whatever path that is.
Right.
And then there are things that you do need with that pedestal and respect and stuff, because if they don't respect you and they don't trust you and they don't, then it doesn't work either. So it's like,
it's a fine
really
line
hard.
that
It's a fine line.
treading.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not
for you,
quite
though,
sure how to navigate that.
For you, having done that work, are there moments growing up where you can identify that, okay, that's where that started, with that experience, or something happened to you, in terms of just that need now to impress and train to,
yeah. I mean, I worked with psychologists and stuff before, and identifying like being the youngest and trying to fight for attention, and the way to get attention is to do well.
Right.
So excel.
Right.
And so not necessarily a bad thing, because you're excelling, but it's for attention.
Your why.
Yes. And so a lot of that, it was growing up, and I only realize now to excel was to get recognition, for attention. And I think it's quite obvious in a lot of people as well, is for recognition, attention, and so forth. But also picked up on like my mom working so hard and working long hours and doing what she needed to do to support us.
100%.
Not necessarily, again, a bad thing. Like, I never came from a bad childhood. Like, I never came from a bad home. Like, my parents were great. They did what they needed to do. They raised us really well. They weren't abusive at all, like that kind of thing. But just learning from my mom, and then I took that on, and all three of me and my sisters adopted that kind of
work ethic,
which is not bad, but it's also can be detrimental, where you can't put boundaries and you can't say no, and you keep just working yourself to the bone. So it's that kind of
Yes,
thing.
yes. And it's not your mom's fault either, because
I mean, she had no idea. I mean, she had to support us.
Exactly.
She had to do what she had to do. So it's just like small things like that. You can't. Doesn't mean you're a bad mother.
Yes.
Like
yes.
I think it's great, and I'm glad, because I have that work ethic.
Right.
So if she wasn't like that, maybe I wouldn't have that work ethic, and then I wouldn't get to where I want to be.
Right.
On my own, at least. So just small things like that from my childhood, but I didn't really. I grew up in a good home.
Right.
We like struggled financially a lot, but and that makes you stronger and harder, but it makes life a lot harder.
Yeah.
Always.
But resilient though. Hey?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you didn't go to bed with on a hungry stomach.
No, never. No, like they always provided for us.
Yes.
We just like didn't always have luxurious things, but we always ended up somehow, doing what we needed to do, going overseas. Like we weren't. If you compare us to families who didn't have food on the table, not like that. I'm pretty sure, maybe I don't even know, but maybe at times there was no money in the bank account, but my parents didn't let us know. So we had a good home, and a good upbringing. Just a few things that you take with you that you don't realize can be detrimental in some ways, and you don't realize it until you sort of do the work.
Yes. So now you high school, synchro swimming, everything's competition-wise. Are you winning any competitions? So I
didn't always win.
Yeah?
I used to come like 4th, 5th.
Okay.
And I worked hard to get to the top. So there were a couple in my age group that were quite good, and then eventually I got to the top. And then
what's the top? I mean, what age group are we talking about here?
Probably like 16 to 18 age group. Maybe 13 to 15. I remember winning like the solo event, so I was quite good at solo because I didn't have duet partner and stuff at the time. And then only much later then I got a duet partner, and then she went off to university, and then I moved to the club in Cape Town, and then kind of lots of people left, so then you're like automatically at the top.
Right.
So a lot of the time I like sometimes didn't feel like I deserved to go to world champs or whatever, because I hadn't put in all the work that the rest of the world does.
But how do you know that? Are we talking now while you're 18, 19?
Yeah, so I went to my first world champs in 2011 when I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to 2 internationals when I was younger. And then when I was 13 to 15 age group. And then my first world champs was when I was 17.
Right.
So when you see the rest of the world and they're training like full time,
But while you're in South Africa, you don't see that. You only see
No.
it when you get to the competition,
Yeah.
and then you watch when you watch the other guys. You're like,
I mean, you know that they're really good.
right.
You know, but you don't really know until you get there. My first World Champs it was awful experience.
Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh, it was so awful. Like, in terms of, we were not prepared as usual. Swimming South Africa.
Let's don't go there. Let's don't go there.
Yeah. Cut. Well, we didn't get a lot of notice beforehand. That's quite normal, to put a team together. And we swam a duet, and I swam a solo.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really know, like, how to train hard, I guess. You think you're training hard, but you're not really training hard.
Okay. So if you say that, just now that you're a coach and you coaching that age group right now, and in terms of what you know now in terms of training and what you were doing then in terms of training.
Oh my gosh.
How far away?
So far away. And you know, everything is based, like, if you don't have good technique, you might as well just forget about doing it. Because now we've just proved it. We didn't have, with the girls that swam, we didn't have a lot of time in the pool.
Swam now, and you're talking about now this competition just came from.
This little competition.
Right.
I mean, they quit synchro. They haven't been just swimming for a good, like, 5 months, one girl, and since 2022, the other girl.
Okay.
So they haven't been swimming. Come back. They have not ever trained the way we've trained. We only had, like, maybe 2 days a week in the pool.
Okay.
The rest was all on land because we couldn't get a pool, and they stay in the southern suburbs, and we are in Century City. Like, it's just the logistics wasn't working out, and we had 2 months.
Right.
Okay, well, we have 2 months. I know exactly now what to do. I know how much land can help.
Mm-hmm. Land is meaning that you're training in the
land
gym,
training,
in the gym.
yeah,
or
and like practicing your routine on land. I know how much it can do, what it can do to you. It doesn't matter if you have a pool or not.
Right.
You can work technique. You can work everything outside the water. All now learning from my experience from the coaching and the training that we've had. Mm-hmm. Put it into play. The girls and the parents were so worried, like, we don't have, we have hardly swam, they have hardly swam, like stressing a little bit. And no, like, I promise you, you're going to be ready. I promise you, you're going to be ready.
2 months is enough that I can get you ready.
Well, ideally we would like more, but I've got a strategy, and we're going to go with this strategy, and it's going to work because I've learned so much from the coaching, the coaches that I've had, and it was literally the road to Tokyo, mm-hmm. and this road journey now that I've learned the most I've ever learned. So
this was university for you, proper university, on the ground, hands-on.
I will, it's so valuable. And, and they were like, when they swam, they were like, we can't believe it. I can't believe it.
How important is it for a athlete that you're coaching to believe in that plan?
It's so important. It's so important. And it was quite hard. Like, we had many conversations. I had to repeat to them, why am I doing this? Why do I want X, Y, Z? Why do they need to focus? Because we don't have a lot of time. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. And now they swam, and I said to them, do you see that I had a plan, and do you see that it worked? Do you trust me mm-hmm. now? Mm-hmm. Does it make sense why we did all that training and what I say you need to do?
Right.
Yes. Like, now they're going to be different athletes because they trust the process.
Right.
It's always hard to trust the process.
Well, first they're going to trust you, right? Yeah. They never know.
So they trust me enough that they know my results for myself.
Right.
So if I didn't have those results, they wouldn't trust me mm-hmm. for myself. So now they trust my coaching. And Jess was part of it as well. So Jess is coaching as well. So now they trust, okay,
Yes.
she knows what she's doing. You know, before they swam, they asked me like, but these girls have, what's their difficulty? What's our difficulty? I said, don't worry about it.
Is this the athletes now?
Yeah.
You're athletes.
You're going to swim now. Don't worry about it.
How old are they?
15 and 16.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. Trust me. Just trust me. You know, and it's really hard to say, just trust me and they must just trust you. But after they swim, you know, they saw.
What are some of the conversations that you have with them that you sort of want to calm down their nerves, calm down the anxiety before they swim, but also during the training sessions you're having with them? Because I'm sure, as you're saying that trust me, but half their mind is on.
Oh yeah, coming from a club, a culture where they were emotionally abused without really realizing it, and where the coaching, they don't really know what they're doing, and they don't know what they're doing at all.
In what way? They don't know.
They don't understand, they don't have a strategy, they don't plan. For one, they don't plan. So if you don't plan, how can you know what the outcome is going to be? If you don't plan it, you know, and if you don't stick to the plan as much as possible.
And this they were supposed to receive from the club, that the coach in the previous club.
Yes, and also just the knowledge of technique and the knowledge of training and periodization and all of that. Like, I have no idea. You know, there's no certification in, not really, in synchro.
So in your conversations with them, keeping in mind their age, what are you saying to them as to why we're doing periodization? What is periodization? Don't tell me, you don't have to tell them what periodization is, but I mean, you have to explain to them and sort of
so
get
I didn't
them to
really talk about the plan too much because I just explained, like, okay, like I showed them the plan.
Right.
And unfortunately, it didn't really go to plan because... Which is life. Because of more so the factors of them, like sick and, oh, I can't come to training because of schoolwork, and, oh, I can't do this, and, oh, I can't do that. So it was really, we struggled to get them to train. You know, and I kept telling them, you say you want this, but you're doing this.
Right.
What you tell me and what you do are two different things. So you either need to lower your expectation to meet your actions, or you need to do your actions to meet your expectations, to constantly remind them of that. Okay, but you told me this, but you're doing this. Respecting my time, you know, coming late to training, and we don't have a lot of time
already because you got to get back home to study and schoolwork.
Exactly, and we've only got 2 months, and we only have 2 days in the pool. Like, you need to be here and ready by the time we get in. We've got this amount of time, you know, understanding that this is what we're doing. This is the warm-up, this is the thing, this is what we do, everything has its time in the session.
Right.
And this is what we do, and we try not to deviate from that unless we really have to. And so if you're late, then we miss the warm-up. And if you're late, you know, so explaining to them the strategy of their routine and why I've chosen a more simple routine. Because
routine as in what they're going to be
swimming. Yes.
They're going to be judged on competition day.
Yes, so we made it simple so that we can execute it well. And you know, previously it's like, oh, we've got to make it as hard as possible because that's what the rest of the world does, except that's what the rest of the world can execute.
Right.
That's what they train for.
Right.
You know, so resetting their expectations, like teaching them how this is what this means, you know, trying to teach them more.
Right.
trying to make them think more and understand more as adults. Like, you're 15 and 16 now. This is what I expect of you. When you arrive at training, this is what I expect. Now, what are your expectations of me as a coach?
Right.
And then we're like, what? Like, we actually get to tell you what our expectations of you. We expect you to be there for us. We expect you to have a plan. We expect you, those kinds of things. But they didn't have any expectations because they didn't know what to say.
Right.
And then I explained to them that your parents pay me. They have an expectation of my work. So I have to meet their expectations. I have to make you good. So it's teaching them to be more mindful first.
Right.
Before anything.
Right. And again, I think it comes back to what we said in the beginning, where you said that now that you're coaching, and if you knew these things that are now quite beneficial to you right now, and you're saying that if you knew these when you were 16, 17, life would be so much easier for you in terms of your career.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're doing those things already to them in terms of empowering them to make decisions and be self-sustainable and, to take accountability also.
Yes. I mean, I realized, which was very hard for me, was not everyone. You see, I was always like that. I would always arrive and I would start and I would do, and I didn't have to have somebody to tell me what to do.
Right.
I always think, be proactive. Try. That's just naturally, and I get that, I guess, from my mom or whatever.
Yes.
So, but what I've had to understand is that not everyone is like me.
But I think what you're doing, again, back to what you said earlier on, is that indirectly you're actually helping them set boundaries.
Yes, which is what I didn't have. And I realized a lot of things is I would like to be the person to do the things that I didn't get to have, that I had to figure out on my own. Or every now and then had a coach to help me figure that out a little bit along the way. Sorry. And being like the person to do that for other people, other girls or other swimmers, not just girls, because there's men now as well. But like I wished I had that. So, but I can be that for somebody else.
Yes.
And I can be the, all the international exposure and the international coaches that I've had. It's empowered me with the knowledge to be able to pass it on. And so that's what I would like to do. Do that for this country or these swimmers. And hopefully in a way that's healthy.
Yes. Matt, can I get tissues, eh?
Sorry.
No, it's fine, Laura. This is it's your story, and it's something that you're passionate about,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing is you're breaking that cycle.
Yeah.
As you said earlier on, the abused become the abusers. And I believe that what you're doing, having done the work for yourself, and be able to then have that positivity that you're pouring out into the kids.
Yeah, trying to. I have to watch what I say sometimes and how I say it.
But that's also normal, because they need to realize that you're also a normal human being who's got emotions, who's got feelings, and who can also be expressive. And if you're saying something, it's okay. I think this world that we're growing up in, where we have to be prim and proper, and you can't do this, you can't do this, and that's where I think issues sometimes tend to arise.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. So I think just going into coaching and just wanting to empower people with the knowledge and the work that I've had to do to get the knowledge to be able to pass it on, and that was the reasoning for wanting to go to the next journey and train. Wasn't for me anymore, because I'd done that for me.
Yeah.
It was for to continue to learn, because there's so much to learn from so many different coaches and different, you know, situations, and you don't really learn until you're in it and you do it.
Tell me something, while we're there, how many other African countries do synchro besides South Africa?
So there's only us, well, now there's more, but at the time, it was only Egypt and South Africa.
Okay.
And how it works is that each continent qualifies a team of 8 swimmers.
Okay.
And then of those 8, 2 will swim a duet.
Right.
So they'll swim a team and then a duet. And then the second best country gets a duet.
All right.
So technically, South Africa gets an automatic qualification
Why?
because we're the second best duet. We don't have
Oh,
we don't have 8 people to even compete with.
Because it's just Egypt and South Africa
Yes.
that are the only 2 countries
So
on the continent.
technically then that. But they weren't going to send us because they,
For whatever reason.
for whatever reasons,
Right.
not going to go. So I retired, and then
And what were you doing during that time?
no,
when you
living my best
retired?
life.
Really? Why? What was happening?
I think because I decided like I'm retiring, so I was excited to do other things, and I was just spending time with friends and doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I was actually really happy.
How old are you now at 2019 when you retired?
How old was I? 2019. I was 20. Really quick maths.
What year were you born?
1992.
92, so 2022 you'd be 30, so 2 years. So you're 28.
28.
Right.
Yeah. So it's 28, and yeah, I was just doing, like, I was just enjoying being free.
But what were you doing? I mean, you were not just a synchro athlete, you were doing work.
Oh, I was coaching.
So you're already coaching at that stage.
Yes, I was
Okay.
coaching since 2017. 2017,
Okay,
I was coaching.
right.
So I then, started taking on more coaching and just,
Because you guys are not paid athletes.
No.
You don't get paid to
No.
synchro. You know, this
So
is
it wasn't as intense as it is now. I mean, we would train maybe like 3 hours a day. And then, back then, and then maybe 1 hour of gym. So
Okay.
maybe 4 hours if we were lucky.
and how many days in a week, roughly?
I think like 6 days.
6 days in a week.
a
Okay,
week,
either land or in the pool.
Yeah, and it wasn't a lot. Like the intensity wasn't a lot, and it was just kind of like never had a plan. Every day was just, we'll just do this.
Okay, because people think, 4 hours of training.
Yeah,
People would think
it's
a lot of training.
It was like 3 hours. It was like 3 hours. By the time you get in, it's like 2.5. And then we always finished early, so.
Oh dear. Okay.
It was never really 3 hours in the pool, and
Right.
and then I used to do a gym session with Ty,
Right.
and so that was a session,
Okay.
an hour session. That was pretty good, but it wasn't intense like
Right.
it was now. I always actually used to do extra training on my own, like fitness or more training on land or whatever. And
Why did you feel that you need to do that extra stuff, even though you're...
I think because I knew it wasn't enough.
Okay.
It wasn't enough training.
Right.
So, seeing those other girls and what they do, it's not enough. So it's like I had to do more.
But now, doesn't that make you... Because as you said earlier on, with synchro, whether you're in a duet or in a team, you have to know your other teammates' moves and be able to sort of preempt their moves. And so if you now, but naturally, because you're training more, you become stronger.
Yeah.
And now you become the strongest in the team. Now in the pool, are you not getting either frustrated, or you're actually doing more than what your teammates are doing, and then they may be thinking something else about you? What's the dynamics there?
Yes, it did cause a lot of dynamic shift, I guess. But I was always told, like, you're wrong, and it's always putting me down. So I think the only way to try and combat that was to put you down as a swimmer. So your confidence was like down here, you know, and you just think you're worse. Instead, you don't actually realize like, oh, you're better or you're doing better. It's just negative all the time. And so, you know, you're always in the wrong. And
that was also one of the reasons why that sort of pushed you over to say, listen, 2019.
Yeah, I'm done. And I had a lot of, and that came up, a lot of those issues came up in insecurities, came up in training with Clarissa and Vicky, that we had to work through, that I didn't really understand what was what I was feeling, why I was, and like I would have like these little outbursts of like, I'm not wrong, but actually I was wrong, let's say with Clarissa and them there.
Clarissa, okay, so just to put into context, Clarissa is your partner for the Olympics now.
Yes.
Right.
So when and Vicky was my coach for Olympics.
Right.
So when eventually we swam together there, and I was in wrong, I would get and I still have to work through it, but I would get really upset because I would get really upset, or like, let's say I wasn't in the wrong, like she didn't know who was wrong. She wasn't even really directing it at me, but I would be like, but I'm not wrong, and you know, like get really, really upset about it, and worked up about being wrong instead of just taking the crit and working on it. I would like argue back. And it's still a thing. Even recently with Cece, she had to sort of call me aside on 2 occasions and tell me like, I'm here to help you, and if I tell you you're wrong, you're wrong.
Right.
And I don't want to hear a whole conversation about it, because we don't have time for that. We need to carry on, you know. Whereas, and I'm getting so worked up, but it's because of my past experiences instead of just, and Jess can take criticism so well, and she just, okay, or like the corrections, not criticism, the corrections, well, okay, and redo it.
Right.
Okay, redo it.
Right.
Okay, redo it. And I would get so upset that I'm wrong.
Right.
You know, and it's just, you need to take the correction, fix it, and carry on. But I was getting emotional about it.
At the time, when you get that emotional and your coach is pulling you aside and saying, listen, let's get on with it, how are you feeling at the time? Are you feeling like...
Angry.
Okay. Oh, you're still angry and you're still like feeling that I'm
frustrated
right.
And yeah, like, I'd never really been in a coaching situation where, like, in South Africa, it's normal for you to be able to talk back to the coach. You know, when they're trying to correct you, you talk back to them.
You're talking about in South Africa?
Yes.
It's a normal culture.
It's a normal culture. And when in the rest of the world, you don't talk back to the coach, purely because, not because the coach is being mean, because we don't have time to sit and talk to the coach. I'm telling you the correction. I'm here on the pool. I'm trying to help you. That's the end of story. I don't want to hear, if I need to know more, I'll ask you. You know, so it's purely a time, and, you know, I'm here as the person on the side to help you, to give you corrections. And so it's completely foreign, and I'm also so used to coaching myself.
Okay.
It was something that I had to really work on, or still work on, is like, because I've been having to coach myself, correcting myself like I know more. Right.
I hear you saying.
You know?
I hear you.
So these are the type of things that you don't realize you create until it comes up elsewhere.
So 2019, you decide, okay, I'm done with the sport. I'm just gonna have a life.
Yeah.
life again, spend time with friends and whatever. And then, so what's happening now?
Then one of my clients in February 2020 asked me, what's happening with synchro? Are you going to the Olympics? And I was like, what? I was like, no. And they're like, well, water polo is going. And I was like, well, if water polo is going, then synchro is definitely going, because we're always on the same thing. Like, if they're sending water polo, they're sending synchro.
Hang on. February 2020, Olympics are in that same year?
July.
In July?
Yeah. So,
and you retired the previous year?
Yeah.
But
no,
now,
because they told me we weren't going.
So you haven't been training, doing any swimming between your retirement? Okay, when did you retire?
July, about August.
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 So for a good 6 months, you've just been swimming for fun, basically, and not
really
swimming with
anything.
a focus on training. Okay.
And then I asked around, what's happening, and they still told me nothing. Don't get your hopes up. They're not sending synchro. Okay, well, they're sending water polo, so they must be sending synchro. And eventually I found, Penny Haynes at the time was the head of the athletes committee, and she helped me find out that, yes, they are sending synchronized swimming.
Penny was sitting in the SASCOC or Swim
South
SA.
Africa, and FINA. She was on the board for FINA as well.
Right.
So she had more intel and helped me out with that. And and then I didn't have a duet partner at the time because I'd left my duet partner
when you retired
in 2019.
That's right.
And she had another partner.
Okay.
And then
so she still had she still had dreams of carrying on with synchro and stuff like that.
Well, as far as I know, she was also going to retire, but that's her own thing.
But she found a partner, and then she was going her
and
own
then
way.
they were going to go in our place.
Oh, okay, right.
So I heard that I had declined the spot for Olympics, which was also news to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
this is happening now, February 2020.
Yes, February 2020.
Olympics are 4 months away.
Yeah.
Right.
It's close. It's so close. And our nationals was 10 weeks away.
Okay.
At the time.
Right. Of you finding out all this.
Yes.
Right.
And so technically they had to have a qualification competition. So you only qualify South Africa's spot. So technically in 2019 we qualified the spot.
But
so
the
I couldn't
people
really
going
fight
to
that.
the spot.
Yes, so then the people going to the spot technically need to swim again, and the winners then take the spot.
And this would be your national competition,
yes.
nationals.
And that was 10 weeks away. Right. So I a lot of politics, and I couldn't go. It wasn't going to happen, going back to my old partner.
So you had to find a new
and my
partner.
old coach, yes. Right. And, well, I'm just going to say it. I don't care, actually.
Right.
Basically, I gave the coach an opportunity to tell me the truth.
Okay.
I knew everything because I'd seen the emails to Swimming South Africa and so forth, and she didn't. She still lied to my face. And, I begged to be the reserve. In that team because I understood that they had a duet.
Right.
And I left.
Right.
But I said I'll train as a reserve, and at nationals they can pick the best two, fair and square, because there wasn't really any other competition for a duet. They were the only ones. She didn't like that idea.
Your previous coach,
yes.
That is, right, before you retired at that club that you're swimming at.
Yes, right. She didn't like that idea, I guess because there's too many variables.
Okay.
It could be me and the other girl, it could be me and...
Right, the other, your former partner.
And whatever. Right. So, anyways, the conversation didn't really end well. And by the end of that conversation, I had already decided in my head, well, then I'm going to find my own partner and I'm going to beat you.
Okay.
I didn't say any of that, but that was my thinking.
Right.
Literally my thinking was, I'm going to find somebody to swim with me and I'm going to beat you.
tell me.
Or at least I'm going to try.
Right. At that stage, was there anything in your head saying Olympics?
Yeah, I was like, this is my dream. This is my opportunity.
Okay.
Finally, like, it's going to happen. I want to go.
Right. So you believed at that time that actually I can take that spot, the Olympic spot.
Apparently, I believe that. When I look back at the videos, and we had 10 weeks and we had no coach, I actually am like, what were we actually thinking? Like, I looked at those videos. I actually sent them to Clarissa because it came up on my memories. And I was like, what were we thinking? But apparently we thought we could do it. And we did with time.
Yeah, right,
so,
right.
At one point in that journey, we were starting to doubt ourselves in the qualification to beating them. And somebody said to me, but when you started this, you believed you could do it.
Right.
So you need to go back to that feeling of, otherwise you wouldn't have started it. If you didn't think you could do it, you wouldn't have been here. So I'll never forget that. If you for 1 second believe that you can do something or that it can work, then you believe it. Otherwise, if you think about it, you don't do it, you don't believe you can do it. So if you don't follow through with a little bit of it.
Laura, you know, it actually, it's one of the things that drives me, you know, because those moments, I mean, I have numerous times where those moments of doubt comes and you think, and then other things, can I do it? Or am I doing the right thing? Or this thing's not making me money right now, but am I in the right spot or whatever?
Yeah, and people tell you all kinds of things.
100%,
You're crazy,
100%.
you know, how do you think it's going to, what if they don't send you? Then all of this is for nothing. Well, then it's for nothing.
But what you're saying is, it resonates so much with me because I've learned along the way, because when you're younger, you listen to people's opinions, and that is the more important opinion than your own opinion. So those other people's opinions, you listen to them and you follow their opinions.
Yeah.
And then, whereas now, the older I've gotten, and I tap into that feeling, because when I was excited about whatever I was doing, and then I believed so much that I could do it, and I was doing it, and then sometimes then it's like, even now with this podcast, I mean, I've been G'd up, yeah, but there's times where you think to yourself,
should I be doing this?
Should I be doing this? You know, am I on the right track? You know, I mean, like, I'm in my mid-40s, and not mid-40s, no. I'm in my early 40s, and
I've just dropped everything to do.
Exactly.
What and you get this little, like, it's like you can't describe it, but it's a feeling, just something, inside. You believe you can do it, even if it's for 1 moment or 1 second, and you take the first step,
100%.
and then you feel like, but I've already taken, I can't go back because I've already, even though you could you're not far enough but you don't, because you still keep believing that you can do it. So that was something that stuck with me, like, well, you believed it in the first place.
You know that some of the things, and you're so right, because I often use this analogy of the and I don't know where the story comes from, but it's an old story, and a lot of people have retold it, where back in the days there was a war, and then they sailed to this place to go conquer this place, and then the captain or the leader of that army, of that regiment there, told his soldiers to burn the ships. All right. Went on land, so by burning the ships, meaning that there's no going back.
Yes,
you know, so we fight this war, we die, whatever, but there's no going back. And so I've always looked at my life, and then I saw that at the times where I was like flaky and I listened to people's opinions was because I had options.
Yeah.
You know, so I could say, okay, maybe it's not working, I can go back there. Whereas now, as an example, where I've said, I'm burning my ships to the back. Not necessarily I'm burning relationships, but
I'm not turning back.
I'm not turning back.
I'm only going to go forward.
I don't want to have any options. If someone says to me, hey, but we can do, I'm like, hey, don't come to me. This is my focus.
Yeah,
you know?
It's true.
And
it is. I mean, I think I think what also, not so much for me, but when I called up Clarissa and I was like, it's only 10 weeks of your life. And
Right.
then it's nationals, and then we see what happens, and then we figure it out. She was like, okay, I can do it for 10 weeks.
Okay. So where was Clarissa at the time now?
So Clarissa was in Cape Town.
Okay.
I didn't know. So she studied she got a scholarship to study in the States.
Okay.
So she got a scholarship doing synchro. And she did synchro there at a higher level, much higher level than South Africa. And then she never got the opportunity to go to World Champs. At the time when she was there, they wouldn't allow her to, because she didn't come back to the competition, nationals, to compete. She was never selected for a team.
Right.
Even though she was the best
In the country.
in the country.
And she was training
training at a high level. She was never allowed to. Even if she sent videos, nothing, they wouldn't accept. So she never got a chance to go to any of the World Champs. Any of them. So she also had this desire to, go to an international competition, and Olympics, was on the cards.
And also, I guess, to also just test herself in terms of all this training. And I mean, she
quit because she burnt out.
Okay.
But that was the lure, because I knew that she was on the same level as me. So I'd asked a couple of people before her. I didn't know she was still in Cape Town. When I found out she was in Cape Town, I was like, I have to call her. I have to try and get her on board. And I knew that she worked hard. She was self-motivated and proactive, that she had experience from training in the States, that she was really good. And we had matched on the level of work, and we both had the same passion for synchro, obsession.
Right.
If you can call it that. I think more than passion, obsession. And even though she had been out of it for 6 years,
Oh, wow.
I said to her, there's a chance we can go to Olympics. And she was like, I haven't swum. And I was like, no, it's easy. I'll show you. I'll send it to you. I'll come to the pool with you. You can try a couple of things, and then you can see if you want to do it.
Is this now the routine?
Yeah, just know there were some elements that we had to do in a routine. And I was
Okay.
like, let's just try the elements first, and then you can decide.
Right.
And then, she tried them, and she was like, okay, it's 10 weeks, why not? We didn't have a coach. We didn't have anything. We had a tripod and a phone, and we literally filmed ourselves
Amazing.
at the gym, trying out some stuff. We had a couple of old friends from Synchro that helped us every now and then. And then COVID happened.
Right. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
2020.
So, I think it was probably 2 weeks after.
You guys decided, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah, and we started and everything, and we were at training outdoors the one day, and I remember there was that first guy that came into South Africa that had it, and he was in Durban or something, and we were like, what is this? And the whole world started shutting down, and we were still at training, and we were like, haha. And then next week, boom, lockdown. And then we were supposed to go to Vicky just for a training camp to help us. And she had agreed to it because she had quit, wasn't coaching, whatever, for a few years. And she agreed, okay, she'll help us a little bit. She's like, I'm not really sure what I can do in 3 days, but I'll help you.
But Vicky was during the World Champs when you're growing up?
No, she didn't help me. She was my coach before 2011.
Before 2011?
Just for one season.
Right.
Yeah. And then she stopped.
Okay. And she's never coached ever since, up until the time you said to her, listen.
And then we were so then COVID happened, and then we saw everyone doing Zoom. And we were like, hey, Vicky, there's this thing called Zoom. And the rest of the world.
Vicky's in Joburg, right?
Yes.
So you guys are in Cape Town.
So we were supposed to fly that week to Joburg.
Okay.
And then 1 or 2 weeks after that,
COVID hits.
It was supposed to be in March. Sometime was or end of March was nationals.
Okay.
So then COVID happened. Then we were like, okay, nationals is going to be delayed, and so we're like, Vicky, there's this online thing called Zoom, and everybody's doing some online training. Would you be keen? And she was like, yeah, okay, like we can do a bit of strength stuff online and whatever. So we started working with her every day, doing some technique and stuff online, and she started to become more and more creative, getting some stuff. And then
at that stage, nothing in terms of world champs being moved. I mean, nationals being moved.
So nationals had then was postponed.
Okay.
And then eventually it was like Olympics was like up and down. Are we going to postpone?
I remember that.
Yes.
Yes.
And eventually they were like, it's decided. A year later, it's going to be postponed. And that's when Clarissa and I were like, we have a year. We have a year. They didn't know who I was swimming with. They had absolutely no idea. And so we had a year to prepare before we swam again. And a lot of challenges, like obviously no pools for a couple of months. I got meningitis. So I was out for almost, I would say, a month and a half. I couldn't train. I was so exhausted. But when I got my energy back and I was sort of back to normal, I was like, oh my gosh, is this how it feels to be normal? Like to just feel all my vitamins levels were up. I had just a lot of sleep. My body was like re-energized. I was so strong. I came back even stronger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so once I had built up the strength, and Vicky was really good. She like built me up slowly. She didn't push too soon. So she was really careful about how much I did.
Right.
And progressed me slowly.
Right.
So that was really good, and I trust her fully as a coach because I know she's really good. So it's important to trust your coach.
Yeah.
And know, that they know what they're doing. And then I came back 10 times stronger, and then we had the nationals in
But what about
March.
Vicky did you trust? Because that's the same Vicky when you a couple of years in your first world champs, when she said she doesn't know anything. Remember that she said. So what did she do?
So Vicky said that when we were when we asked her to coach us for Olympics, she was like, I haven't taken a duet of this level.
Right.
I knew Vicky before I moved to Cape Town and before I went to World Champs. She only coached me for one season, and I was young at that time. I was 16, turning 17.
Okay.
So she coached me for one season. And she was just really good. She knew the basics really well, and I improved quite a lot with her. So I trusted her from that.
Right.
You see. So and then she stopped, and then I moved to Cape Town and started swimming here. Could see the difference in the coaching.
Right. Okay.
From the beginning, and then Clarissa had never met her, so Clarissa was just going on what I knew. Right. But she could see from when we were doing the Zoom sessions that Vicky was a good coach, and she knows what she's doing especially in terms of the basics, which is really where you need to start.
Right.
So.
And I think for Clarissa also, I'm assuming she would have voiced her concern because she's experienced good coaching before, so she knows the level of coaching when a coach is good, right? So that must have been confidence builder for you too, to say, okay, cool, we can do this.
Yes, and I think in America and university, most of the people that get scholarships that go swim there, they already have all the basics really well. So Clarissa struggled a lot in university, she told us. And because we didn't get taught the basics properly, they weren't there to teach you the basics. So Clarissa had to learn a lot of the basics with Vicky again as well as me. But I had already done it with Vicky the first time she coached me. And so, we also all just fed off each other's sort of knowledge. Right. So I would give my input of what I've experienced from World Champs and all the stuff that I've learned through World Champs and whatever, and give my experience there. And Clarissa would give her experience of how they trained in the States, and then Vicky would give her experience on, especially on the basics and like clean, like having a clean, well executed routine. And Vicky knew the rules really well, and the judges spoke really well. Like, she taught us, this is what the judges are looking for, this is what this, she actually taught us about the sport, you know, like, and that's, I thought, was so important, because we understood what we needed to do.
This is, hang on, just to put this into perspective, because I think people don't understand, or one might not think it lightly. While this being taught about the sport, and in this teaching, you are teaching yourselves about the sport, but training to go to Olympics in how many months?
So like it was a year, let's say, with Vicky, a year.
Cool.
And less than that, maybe just less than that to nationals, which is in March the following year. So
some athletes practice their entire lives to get to Olympics. You guys are literally learning about the sport. Okay, so you're not learning from the start.
Yeah, but it felt like we were learning from the start, because we had learned basically lots of things wrong.
100%. You look back, you got to say to yourself, but guys, we produced something phenomenal in terms of just personally.
Yeah, we did.
In that short space of time.
People don't realize what, especially other people in the rest of the world, because the rest of the world in synchro are just like, oh, South Africa just gets given a spot. Like, they're so lucky.
Yes.
You know, and they don't deserve it. But what we have to do, and we felt like, especially Clarissa and I, like, we felt like we had to try to do as best we could, because there were so many girls or women who weren't able to qualify for Olympics that were 10 times better than us. But because of how it works and qualification for Olympics, they never get the opportunity.
Right.
Even though they're 10 times better.
Right.
So it's almost like we felt like, okay, we have to swim for them as well. And we have to represent, and we have to do as well as we can. We're not just going there for the free ride. You know, we don't want to make a fool of ourselves, and we want to try and achieve as much as you can. And at the time, when you come from South Africa, you get scored because you're from South Africa. So it doesn't matter if you're trained by a Russian. If you come from South Africa, you get a certain score.
Hang on. What do you mean you get a certain score?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, if you come from China, you get a certain score. If you come from Russia, you come from a certain score. Like, it was so biased. It was so biased because the judges, they mark you on your country. And everyone knew it in the sport. So they've just changed the rules now. Recently, they've been working on it for a long time, how to change the sport that it doesn't become, it's not biased.
Right.
And there's a lot of teething issues.
Right,
I think the new rules I hated them, and now I love them, because I think that they've taken away the bias.
Fantastic.
They've taken away the judge's power
okay.
to be biased.
Right.
So then fast forward to March, which was the Nationals at the end of March.
That's a year later, March 2021.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, and we were training with our international coach. She was in Spain, and we were training with her on Zoom.
Okay.
And we were in the pool, and she was on the side of the pool, and we had one phone facing the pool. We had the other phone facing us so we could see her.
Okay, all right.
On the tripod, Tanya was busy trying to manage the tripod. I have these headsets that you can hear underwater, so we put the microphone by the phone on Zoom so Reem would speak to us. And it was a bit blurry, but she could make out what we were doing, and sort of we trained like that for quite a while.
But hang on. Vicky is your coach. Now, who's this international coach?
So Reem came on board to help us with our routines, and also just get, like I said, like Vicky said that she needed help to get more international exposure to coaching and to get to the next level.
Right.
So we all needed to get to the next level. How do we get to the next level? With Reem.
Okay.
So Reem and Clarissa actually swam at university together. So when Clarissa was in her last year, Reem was in her first year coming in. And Reem is Egyptian. So she was in the Egyptian national team. She went to 2 Olympics. And super creative, the most amazing coach. She's really, really good. And so we thought, going to nationals, nobody's going to see the routine. If we qualify, we can change it. We can make up a new one. Let's just use it for now. Mm-hmm. And then we got to nationals and we were like, oh, okay, like, what happens if somebody sees it? And then it's like copied and whatever. So we reached out to Reem.
Okay.
And we explained our situation, and we were like, we were really inspired, actually.
Her. You called her?
No, we emailed her.
Okay, but it's the same thing in terms of just like,
basically,
there was no relationship between...
She knew Clarissa a little bit. So we explained to her, like, her routine, we loved that one the most. So that's why we chose it, because it was the coolest out of the ones that we saw. It was one of the collegiate routines, which was... collegiate meaning the ones at university that they swim. So we were inspired by her routine, and we really enjoyed it, and that's why we picked it. And so we explained the situation to her in an email, and we said, we would like to ask for your permission to use it, and if you would like to help us, we would love your help, and can you let us know your fees and everything.
So at this time she's a coach?
Yes, because she was she was a coach for the USA team.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so she did that for a while, and then she left.
Uh-huh.
And so she had gone to Spain to live with her husband.
Right.
So we knew that she was we caught her in a good time, because she was kind of in between.
Uh-huh.
She didn't really have what she was doing. She was kind of taking a break. So when we reached out to her, she was like, sure.
Oh, wow.
I'll help you. Like, she was not upset at all that we had used her routine. And, it looked nothing like the one that she actually swam. And, so she then, she sent us her prices, and we were like, okay, well, we can do it on Zoom for now until we can get you here. Mm-hmm. But because of COVID, we could never get her here, because we were always on the red list for everything.
Yes, I remember that.
So it was really difficult to get her here. So actually for nationals, we didn't manage to get her with us.
Okay. Although you tweaked the routine, but she wasn't there physically.
She wasn't there physically, and which was really sad. And Tanya couldn't even come with us because they restricted only one coach with us and stuff like that. So we swam at nationals.
And Tanya is what?
She was helping us. She was assistant coach. Okay. She was the man behind everything.
Okay. So she's holding cameras,
filming, sending us the videos, like playing the music. She was really without every single person that played a little. Right. It wasn't just me and Clarissa. It was a whole team of people helping us, and then the support from our friends and family behind it. And so then we swam at nationals, and we knew we had to be here above them, in terms of score.
Right.
So we had to try to aim for, we weren't aiming to beat them, we were aiming to
it
be
must
here,
be such that there's no
so that
question.
They only marked us this much above them, because we knew biased judging, they can't deny us the mark, but they will make it close.
I hear you.
Luckily, we had we requested a lot of international judges. So our videos were sent off to international judging to be fair.
Again, is this for the nationals?
Yes.
Right.
And so it was fairly judged, or we know that it was fairly judged, that's what we know. And so we won. Nobody actually told us, okay, you're going to Olympics.
Okay, so you won.
It was all a secret. It was like, well, we can't really say you're going to Olympics, you're on the long list. Well, what does the long list mean? Are we going or not? Do we train or not? So
who
basically...
Who are you communicating this now with? Is this Swim SA?
Synchro South Africa, Swimming South Africa, SASCOC, all of them.
Wow.
So...
How far out are we now? Because they've announced the Olympic dates. They know when the Olympics are.
Now it's April, May, June, And we leave in July.
Right. So
3 months.
So 3 months, and you don't know. You've won nationals, but no one has told you whether you guys are going to.
No, it's all a big secret. It's always a secret.
Right. Okay.
Everything's always, nothing's transparent.
Right.
Everything's a secret. In all the sports, I think. So we're gonna leave our jobs, and we're gonna move to to Joburg, and we're gonna live with Vicky, and we're gonna train full time.
Hold on. You still don't know whether Olympics are happening or not, but so you are going on a whim and a prayer and to
go. So we have to just to train like we're going.
Right.
And hope that it happens.
Right.
So we're training like we're going, and it's still like heavy COVID. We still can't get Reem to South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to train and it's getting closer and closer. We still can't get it out of them. We have to send all our details.
Oh, so they're requesting details and all these things.
But we can't tell you if we're going. You're still on the long list. Like, what's the long list? So anyways, we're still anticipating. And then Clarissa gets COVID.
Oh, dear.
We're 5 weeks out. No symptoms, just fatigue. A lot of fatigue, but we can't tell, is it fatigue from training or is it fatigue from COVID? We go to the doctor and she's like, looks at us, Clarissa, you've got COVID.
Oh, wow.
I can see it in your eyes. And Clarissa's like, no, this is how my eyes look all the time.
And you saying no, that's not how your clients
I'm like,
look.
no, sure, eyes look like that all the time.
Oh, really?
Tired eyes all the time. Anyways, we go home and we're like, okay, but what if you do have COVID? Right. No, let's just get a test. Let's all get tests, just in case.
Right.
Everyone comes back negative except for Clarissa. So now we get a phone call from SASCOG. They found out before we found out that she has COVID.
How?
I don't know. So anyways, we had done a medical before, just before this. They didn't pick it up on the medical. So you have to do a medical before you leave.
But
we still don't know we're going, but you have to do a medical before you leave, okay? So this is like a week before we found out we were going. And then...
and this is 4 weeks away now, because she got COVID 5 weeks out.
5 weeks, yeah. So for 10 days... It was like probably 6 weeks, because for 10 days we couldn't go to the pool. We couldn't leave. They told us we can't leave the house. They might send somebody to check on us.
Who's there?
We're not allowed to, SASCOG, you're not allowed to tell anybody that you have COVID. Because I get that if it got out that South African athletes have COVID, they might not let us,
into the village. Right.
So we had to isolate. We couldn't go to the pool. We couldn't train at the pool. We had to do land training. We couldn't get Reem here. It was like, no, this is not happening. We had to change our routine music because we couldn't get the copyrights to the music that we had. And you have to have the copyrights to the music. So we had to change our routine 5 weeks before. Anyways, eventually we get Reem out. She's able to come. Mm-hmm. It was like a gap in, they had then taken us off the red list. Go.
Right.
She's got to get here. So she gets here. We've got 5 weeks. It's like intense because now we've got to get this routine fixed. We've got to get back in the water. We've got to train, all of that stuff. Then we find out from the TV that we're going. So our names come up on the TV screen.
So as all the South Africans are finding out,
and we're sitting there and we're like, please. We've sent all our stuff. We've done the medicals, so we kind of know, but we're not 100% sure.
Right.
And with anything can happen with South Africa. So our names got up and we're like, oh my goodness.
We didn't
even know that Vicky was going with us. We thought maybe it would be a different coach.
Okay.
We have no idea. But it was a good feeling and we celebrated, and that was a month before we had to leave. 1 month, we found out officially we were going.
Tell me something. Give me a typical training day 1 month out of Olympics for you.
you feel ill the whole time. The whole time you feel ill because it's hard, because you're upside down, nothing digests. I also recently learned, only now, that your body goes in, when training so hard, your body goes into fight or flight. So your digestive system is the last thing that it needs to do, because now it needs to fight.
Right. Is it a sympathetic nervous system?
Yeah. We would warm up for like 45 minutes, an hour on land.
So by now, is it like 9 o'clock in the morning in the pool? Or wherever you're training, you're there.
Yeah, we would travel like about a good 45 minutes, an hour to get to the pool that we were training at. And then we would train, and then we would do land training, and then we would get in the pool, and then you do like a water warm-up, like a laps, a couple of laps and technique for the first half, and then you would focus on routines. So we would train until about 3, and then we would get out, and then we would...
Hold on. You're warming up, you're at the pool, say 9:30?
Yeah.
You warm...
we're 9 at the
pool. Okay, so you're doing a land training.
For an hour. Let's say.
Right.
By the time we get in.
After land training, maybe a rest for whatever, 30 minutes?
No.
Oh.
You get in the pool. Now you're warm. You got to get in the pool.
Oh, you're going to get in the pool.
Then you do land. Then you do water
laps.
warm up.
Which is like, what, how many laps are we doing?
No, it depends. Like when you're getting close to competition, you don't do more than you do maybe a kilometer.
Of warm up?
Yeah. Okay. But it included like some synchro stuff as well.
Oh, okay.
So it would be sprints and underwater, a lot of underwaters to get the lungs warm, and then some synchro stuff, and then some technique.
Okay.
And like specific stuff to the routine, just focused in one spot. Right. Counts, timing, corrections, fixing technique.
Right.
And then you would move on to the routines, the conditioning part of it. And then, we would finish like 2:33, get out.
You're in the pool, literally the whole day.
Yeah. And then we would get out and then eat lunch on the way to the next pool, because we had to get out of that pool because they had, after school, they had training. So we had to then go to another pool and use another pool for like another 2 hours. And then from there, we would go home and do Pilates or bio, and then stretch, and then land drill, which is like practicing your routine on land.
Okay. With
music.
Okay.
On land for the counts. And we would land drill sometimes till like maybe after dinner till 9 o'clock, sometimes even later. And when Reem was there, she made us land drill for like 2 hours. And then we would go to bed and then start all over again. That was for Olympics. That was because we were full-time. We didn't have to work.
Right.
So...
And you're not getting paid by a federation this time, eh? It's everything self-funded.
Yeah.
Reem coming down from Spain, you had to raise money.
We had a backer buddy, and then Dave and Vicky looked after us and hosted us for 3 months out of their own. You know, and then if the backer buddy was enough, then that would cover some of the costs. But it's a lot of money, a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of kindness. Sure. Going on. So then we did that for like 3 months. When Reem was here, it was a lot more intense, a lot more. So like even what we had been doing wasn't enough.
Wow.
You know, and we had stepped it up more, but it still wasn't enough. But you know, Vicky could see like we were tired, we were exhausted. You know, on some days, you have to be quite tough as a coach. You can see your athletes are so tired and like exhausted, but you know that they need to do more. So you have to push them to do more. And
did you guys understand that at the time?
Yeah, we did, but you still, like, when mine plays games with you, and you're like, it's too much. But looking back, that's what makes you peak.
Right.
It has to be too much, because then when you taper, it feels like nothing.
Right.
It feels like you're doing nothing.
What did Reem bring in that was missing?
Yeah, Reem is, she has a big personality, and she's a big motivator on the side of the pool. What happens when we go under the water, I have no idea. On the side, she's probably shouting and cursing on the side of the pool. But she's a big motivator on the side of the pool, and a lot of like positive reinforcement. And I don't know how to describe it, but she's very like vocal, and like she'll be like something needs to go like sa and da, and like all these sounds, and so it gets you in the mood, it gets you excited, it gets you in the mood. So she's really good at that, and she's really creative, and she knows a lot of technique, so she's really good with technique as well. She's one of the best coaches that I've had, and then we can talk about it in a little bit with the Chinese coach as well. Very different.
Yes.
Really different coaches. And also different to Vicky. So when Reem was pushing us, we were like seeking from Vicky, like, please make us feel better. Like she's the calm in the storm.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And she knows us well. And so we can go to her as like, you know, to cry and to, you know, it's too much, and she can then reinforce us, it's going to be okay, like you be the calm. So I don't know if they realize that
the roles, the different roles, and they're complementing each other. Yes.
I don't know what happened on the side of the pool. There's a lot of stuff we don't know that happens, that the coaches don't let you see. You know, and they don't let you hear a lot of the stuff, because they need to keep your mind clear of what's happening outside. There was a lot of things in like politics with synchro we were kept away from.
Right, and protected from those things.
Protected from.
Right.
Yeah. So she's really a great coach, and built a good relationship, a good bond with all the coaches that I've had since then. I love them to death. I will, it's a little tears. But yeah, like you bond, and it's special, and all of them have been a good influence in my life. And so again, that's what I want to do for other athletes, is to be that.
Yes.
You know, and all the different coaches, you learn so much from every, and I don't, like, you can have bad coaches and good coaches, but I still believe you can learn from all of them. And so I think it's good to have lots of coaches. Go to experience lots, you know, to find what works for you.
It's like traveling.
Yeah.
Right? When you travel, when you do a lot of traveling, you get to experience other cultures, how people do things, and then it also grows you, and then you actually get to then be more confident in whatever you do, because you know that, okay, they do it this way there, they do it that way there, then I can formulate my own thing based on these other people's experiences.
Yes, exactly. So I think, like, even though I've had some bad experiences, was needed, you know, and I still learned from those coaches.
Yes.
And it's probably not always their fault either. You know, other circumstances make them the way that they are as well. So yeah, that was leading up to Olympics, and then going to Olympics was a challenge to get them to allow Reem to come with us, because the International Olympic Committee, the rules are you can only have one coach and 2 swimmers. That's it. You can't take other people with you, especially in COVID.
Right.
So it was a bit challenging. Reem had to stay outside of the village, and then we had to try to get her accreditation to be able to see us, and we could only see her at the pool, and it was a lot of logistics, but it worked out in the end. And yeah, getting to Olympics is like, it's a bit of a holiday.
But tell me, before that holiday, you've now achieved your dream. Literally, I mean, what else? When I say achieved your dream, yes, you haven't swam in the pool at the Olympics, but dude, you go into Olympics.
Yeah, well, you don't. You can go to Olympics, but you don't get the title until you've swum. And with COVID, it's like every day they're testing you, and you might not swim.
Oh,
so it was still a bit stressful. So it was until you swim, you're not an Olympian until you compete.
Right.
That's the rules. Like even if you're there and you don't get to compete or you don't finish your race, you're not an Olympian until you finish.
Right.
And that's the rule with everybody.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't get you get a certificate from them and whatever, and you don't get that.
So every athlete who competes and completes an Olympic event, whether you won gold or you're the last, you'll get a certificate from the Olympics saying that. Oh, that's
and so it's basically beautiful. How they explain it, and you get this whole thing. It's like the MBA. It's your MBA for sport because you spend so many years, you put so much into it. It's like doing that for varsity, and a lot of athletes don't go to university because of sport.
Yes.
And they don't continue to study because of sport or whatever. So this is your MBA of sport.
On swim day. Take me there to swim day.
Oh, swim day. So
competing day now, yeah.
Yeah, the Olympics, there was only 22 duets that compete in Olympics all that time. I mean, we just had to swim how we had been training and just be connected. That was really important. So being on the same level, on the same connection, really just feeling connected and keeping your head clear of trying to think too far ahead and just think in the moment. Because I'm typical, I rush things. So if I start to think ahead, then I'd start to rush it and whatever. It's just being in the moment and just trying to do what you've been training to do.
So when you're going up on those steps, and then it's so what's going on in your mind right now?
So we were really nervous before, really, really nervous.
Okay.
And then they came to us and they were like, when you walk out, you're going to wave to the camera and to the crowd back home, and then you're going to start. So that was kind of odd to us because when at a World Champs or whatever, the camera's right there in your face, but you don't acknowledge it. You just kind of go. They wanted us to wave and be whatever. And so we were okay. And then we walk out and Clarissa grabs my hand, and Clarissa's not very emotional. She doesn't hug and stuff.
Okay.
She doesn't hugging.
All right. Okay.
Anyway, she grabs my hand and we connect, and we walk out and she's like, I'm okay, we're doing this waving thing. We're she's so calm and so chilled and whatever, and she's waving to everyone. And then I think we were the first duet to actually be happy. We're here, we're swimming. We're finally gonna swim. We're gonna be Olympians. And then you stand, get ready, and the nerves just go away. And it's just
another training routine.
Time. You just I control my focus. I control what I need to do. If I focus on something else, I'm not going to be able to do what I'm doing. So I tell myself all the time, I control my focus. And that's it. And then you almost just swim. I can't even remember how I feel because I don't remember. You finish the swim and you're I don't even remember the whole thing. It goes so quickly and you don't remember it. So you just let the muscle memory take over and you don't try.
And are you, but I'm assuming though, you get to that stage when you've trusted the process and you've trusted that everything you've done before, all those long hours. As you say, you just close your eyes and then you just like, let's go.
Yeah. And you don't try, because as soon as you try, you make a mess. You mess up. So you just let it flow, like you just go. And you trust the muscle memory. So what we practice is over and over and over again, the same thing for hours, over and over and over, to increase the muscle
reinforce
memory.
that movement, that memory.
Yeah. And so when you swim and that music comes on, the muscle memory, it just kicks in, and you just do it. And it's like the moment you try to think, it goes wrong. So you don't.
Wow.
You don't think. You just think about, like Reem gave us moments. Of like, this is your moment here, this is your moment here, this is the moment, and you need to show me those moments. Like, you need to really be in the moment. So we had like little cones, she called them cones, and we had to get to the cone, each cone in each routine. So all you think about is like, I got to get to this cone, and once I've got to that cone, I got to get to the next cone, and the next cone, and the next cone. So that really helped me, because I overthink and like jump and like rush.
Right.
And when I try too hard, it doesn't work for me. So just allowing it to be in the moment, get to the cone, in the moment, get to the cone. I've got 5 cones to get to, and then I'm done.
Right.
Like, and then we're finished.
Right.
Yeah.
You do the swim. What is the score?
So our score was 72. And we were aiming for 7. So, like in the last decade, when they had updated the new rules, and so since I'd been swimming, we hadn't reached 7.
Okay.
7 out of 10.
Right.
So we wanted or 72 out of 100. We wanted to get 7. So we got 72.
Wow.
So you achieved
reached the
our
goal.
goal. We did think that we would get a slightly higher score. We actually initially we wanted 7, and then we were trying to get 75, but because of like all the challenges before we left, it just wasn't, there just wasn't enough time to practice, so we didn't get our 75. And I think that inside of me, that was like, okay, I had a taste of really good improvement, and like I could do better.
Okay, so there was still a gap in the tank. You
Yeah,
thought, okay,
so I wasn't like, okay, cool, I've achieved it and I'm done. There was still a part of me that was like, okay, but if we had a little bit more time, we could have gotten better, you know. I think it was different for Clarissa. I think she was like, okay, we've achieved the goal. I'm done.
So after the Olympics, she basically retired and done. And
she was done. But she was always, that was her thing from the beginning. Like, I'm going to come back for Olympics and then I'm done.
Right.
So that was her expectation. She wanted to do that, and then she was done after that.
Wow. A year, maybe 14 months prior to that, she was living her life.
Yeah,
hadn't swam for 6 years, and carrying on. And then a year later, she is literally on the world stage.
Yeah. I think
did you guys reflect on that at all?
So surreal. Yeah, we do every now and then. We chat about it, or a memory pops up, or there's things that we'll never forget. Like the journey just was so life changing. And there were so many things that we laugh about now that we're like so serious in the moment, you know, and also so ridiculous at the same time, that we laugh about, and like that sort of, I think, changed us as people. You have to dig so deep. There were days like you really just have to dig so deep.
What does digging deep mean? Like for you, what does that mean? Like, take me.
You just and you're relying on the other person to pull you through, and like sometimes, and having to being honest enough to be like, I can't today. I don't know if I can do it today, and then like, can you help? Can you pull me through with your partner or whatever? So like, there's this special bond that you create with your partner that only you guys know, not even the coaches understand, because it's like you can look at each other and exactly, there's no words said, but exactly what's going through the mind, that you're both thinking the same thing, and you're both thinking it's okay. You can do it. You can do it. You know, you did it yesterday. You can do it again today. And you get to training. I don't know how I'm going to finish this. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to make it through. My body's so tired. I'm so sore. And then you make it to the end of training and you're like, okay, I made it. You know, so it's like, it's just finding a way to sort of like constantly talk to yourself.
How did you develop that relationship with your duet partner? Because that sounds to me quite intimate.
Yeah, it is.
And that cannot just be built in the pool,
no,
right?
I mean, well, Clarissa and I like knew each other, but we weren't like that. It took a long time for us to get that way, and we're such different people.
Mm-hmm.
So it was even longer. With Jess and I, we click. We're similar people, so it was a lot easier in terms of like that connection. It was there straight away. So with Clarissa and I, we both were closed. It took a long time to open up, peel the layers in order to get to that. But because you go through so much and you spend every day together and so many hours, it happens. Like you just end up being close.
Have you been in situations where you and your partner just were oil and water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It
Right.
works a lot easier if you get along with the person so well. Like, it
Right.
works a lot easier. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's like a marriage.
I was going to that. It's like that's something that intimacy is that you guys. Well, if you look at it in the pool, the very nature of synchronized, you guys have to be in sync.
Yeah, you
And
have
how
to.
do you
Everything
become
has
in
to be the
sync?
same.
That's
People
it.
like laugh at us because we wear the same clothes and we do the same things and everything's the same. But behind it, it's like you have to be the same. You're like two people, but you're one.
So coming back to what you were saying earlier on, that when you have to connect.
If you're fighting,
Yeah.
or if you're angry or irritated with each other, it shows straight away
Right.
in the water. Like
Right.
the coaches can tell straight away.
Okay. But you said something quite interesting earlier on, that you climb the steps, then you got to connect together.
Yeah.
What is there something physically that you guys do, or is it something
Well,
that you can
like
emotionally?
like holding hands in like just that little squeeze. Like, we've got this. We came this far. There's no words. It's just you feel it. So like, and I think with like when I see the teams and stuff, they have it as well. There's 8 of them, but they have it, all of them. What you go through to
Yes.
get to where you end up at the end.
Yes.
Nobody understands. Like there's no videos that can show it and explain it even. Some of the times where your partner's crying because it's so hard for them that day, and you're never really having the same day.
Right.
You're not both crying the same day. So one is always picking up the other one.
Right.
Always.
Right.
Like, it's very rare that you're both having a good day and you're both having a bad day.
Right.
So I guess that's like, and being able to trust that person fully, that they have your back and you have their back.
That takes time. It takes
A
time.
lot of time. And and just being like, if you have issues
Right.
yourself, it becomes even harder.
And as you said earlier on, those issues come out at those times, and then you've got to address them
So much, like a lot of it came out. A lot of Clarissa's issues, a lot of my issues, a lot of Jess's issues. It all comes out. Whether or not you acknowledge it
Right.
depends.
Right.
But
So you had still something in the tank after Olympics.
I did and I didn't. So like I came home. I didn't really know what to do with myself. It's like this, you chasing this high, really high, and you've got something to work towards every day, and then now you come home, now you have nothing. You just nothing. And then like
How psychologically, where are you at that stage where you say you for the last couple of years or couple of months you've had a focus, a goal. Now that goal has been accomplished. Now we come home, and you haven't planned for post Olympics.
No, and you kind of like feel a little bit like in limbo. Like you don't really know. It takes like a few weeks to really understand like what is actually happening. Because when you come back, then you're like sort of recovering and you're sleeping and catching up with people and so on. And then when all of that dies, then you're like, okay, now really what? You know? And if you don't have anything lined up for afterwards, it's really hard. And when we came back, we had like from our own, like the synchro community in South Africa, no one acknowledged us. No one appreciated the hard work that we put in for South Africa, and getting us to that stage and getting South Africa recognized. Because when I go to World Champs, they know who we are, who I am, and so forth. Like, whereas before I'd been to 8, and nobody knew who I was. Not that it's a thing, but the synchro community is not that big.
Right.
Now I have friends. They say hello, like we connect, we chat, we talk about things. You know, I went to 8, and I didn't know anybody.
Wow.
And when we worked hard, we worked with Reem, we posted a lot. Social media did so much for us as well. We invested a lot into social media, showing our journey, showing the road to get there, what we did, and then being there and then actually like connecting with some of the people. When I went to the next World Champs, I knew them. We said hello, like we made new friends and stuff like that. So it's, you know, and then the Synchro South Africa doesn't understand that is important for the sport.
To grow the sport, yes.
It's important to be acknowledged, the country, to be, oh, that's South Africa's here, cool, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's important for the next generation. They don't realize that.
Is there
It's
next
like a
generation coming up, though?
Not, I mean, there is potential,
Okay.
but
Is it been harnessed? Is it being...
no, they've chased all the coaches they've chased us away.
They, as in this federation?
Yeah, the federation, the people involved in the federation, suing Synchro South Africa.
No, Laura, but you are saying the truth, and I think that if someone has got a counter argument to that, okay, then they must bring their counter argument, you know. So the truth is the truth.
Literally chased us away. I don't want to help them anymore. Initially, I wanted to do it for Synchro South Africa and do it again, and then bring back what I know and bring it into the sport and help the next generation. But they don't want that.
But what you're doing, though, I think with the 2 girls that you just took now overseas, I think that is an opportunity there for you to make change, and I think through starting that small little journey, then some people then will either come on board with that, or then, but at least those 2 girls at least are coming into an environment where at least my coach is here for me.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the thing is, and we were just gonna talk about it, and you're gonna ask me about people's judgment.
Yeah. Right. Let's go there.
So these people judge me and think that I don't know what they think, but I can only assume that they judge me and think I think so highly of myself because I've been to the Olympics or because I've done X, Y, Z. But they don't know why I did that. They don't know what I want to do with that knowledge. What I want to do is to grow the sport. What I want to do is to have a future generation that has stuff that I never had the opportunity, and I had to make it my own. I had to do that all on my own, and it took me too long. You know, and I only got it in 2020 when I was 29 years old and I wanted more of it, but it's too late. Had I got it when I was 16, 17, it's enough time, you can continue. So,
and the sport would have grown in South Africa, because if more and more athletes who've got what you're talking about at that age, there'd be more athletes in the sport, right?
yeah, so their judgment of us and of me, I don't know what they really think, but I know that they think we think we're too good for them, and it's not like that.
I mean, you guys do coaching clinics out of your own pocket. No one is paying you guys. You guys are doing developmental clinics.
So
and you guys
many times, and all we want is to help and to give knowledge and to grow, and they don't want that because of whatever they think of us.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. And because we maybe stole the spot, or we maybe did X, Y, Z, who knows? Whatever their judgment is. And this is like, going to the Olympics, people really, or being an elite athlete, or having muscle, looking the way you do, people judge you. Oh, you're just born like that. No. I worked hard to get to this level, I worked hard to be in the shape that I am. I wasn't always like this. I was actually chubby. There's a lot of judgment around it. And, oh, well, you're just good naturally. Or, oh, you had this opportunity. Or you were given, like the rest of the world, you were given the spot. Okay, but we also had to do all this other stuff to get there, we had to give up our jobs. Our coach had to pay for us to live. Kinds of things like that. People judge you all the time from the outside, and they don't really know what's happening on the inside. So it's hard. It's hard to be seen as like somebody who's achieving so much, but you give up so much. A lot of crying in this thing. But it's true, like you give up, there's so many things you give up personally in your personal life that you don't get to experience. But I chose that. I chose my sports instead of friends. I chose my sport instead of a relationship. I chose my sport and work instead of my family half the time. It's those things that they don't see. And then when you come back and you don't have your sports anymore, it's like you only have the people that are still there who saw through that, which is a good thing. You don't want superficial people in your life, but you have to build a new life all over again. And I don't regret it or want to go back or anything, because I chose that and I knew very well that was what I was choosing and that's what I wanted to do. And I know I chose that because I made that decision full well knowing that. It's just hard. And it's hard to be motivated to train with nothing now. Like, you're not an athlete anymore, so how do you just be normal?
Because that's all that you know, right? All your life you've done this.
You have a goal. You have to find how to have different goals and how to be a different person. And so it's a new chapter, and it's hard in a different way, and challenging, and also sometimes exciting, but it's lonely. When you share this journey with a duet partner or a teammate, and now you have to do everything on your own.
Yes.
Like you feel a little bit lost, like, okay, like now I have to go through this all alone. Now I have to figure it out on my own. And how do I do that on my own you know, like, where's this person? Why are they not here? But they're also figuring out their own shit, you know. So it's a different, the judgments and stuff. People don't see it, and especially in our sport, you're made to make everything look perfect.
And pretty, because you guys go there looking all perfect and pretty and...
and failure and mistakes, everything. It's built, your sport is built around perfection and faking it till you make it, and it's all you know. So this is what people see all the time. So it's hard. It is hard, but I'm not afraid to share it. I don't think people talk about it enough.
I think we don't talk about, especially the mental side of a elite athlete. After you say you've achieved this goal that you've been striving for some athletes all their lives.
Yeah.
And now you get to 30, and now what do you do?
Yeah.
Is there mental support for you?
I think that's why a lot of people go into it again.
Right.
Without thinking about, you know, what does it do to you and what happens when you're not doing it.
But that's the family you know.
Yeah. And
right?
So you go into it. And so this journey going in, I kind of went in it going to try go for Paris a different way, a different thinking. Why am I doing this? Okay, not for myself anymore, because I need to learn as much as I can as an athlete now, so that I can pass it on when I'm done. And there's so much more to learn, and that's why we brought in, you know, we had another coach, Michelle, who was from Malta, who also is the head coach of the Maltese team. So
this was now in preparation for, because you wanted to go to 2024 Olympics.
Yes,
right.
Yes. So we Michelle was helping us, but she couldn't do both.
Right.
And we can't offer her what she gets in Malta.
Because again, you're paying out of your own pocket for all this training and all
everything. So she referred us to Chinese coach Cici, and yeah, so she came in, but I had to try and think. I was trying to prepare myself for afterwards. So like in this process, I was thinking of all the things I'm gonna do when I'm done. But I didn't expect it to come so soon. And I wasn't expecting to go through it like now. But I'm not sad. Sometimes I'm relieved. I miss the training, and I miss the having the motivation to train. I miss that because I like to train and I love training. So like I don't have the motivation at the moment to train, and that's hard. So I'm training without like the joy of it, or like wanting to do it, or doing it for a purpose. But yeah, like the different coaching styles. Cici was also probably the best coach I've had. I mean, all three of them are really good that I've had, but she...
So Cici was going to train you guys for Olympics now. Where is she from?
She's from China, and she never made it to the national team because, again, their own politics. But she was in the provincial team, which is, I mean, they train. Since the age of 12, she was in training camp for 365 days of the year. And because of politics, she couldn't get to the national team. So not because she wasn't good enough.
Right.
So her own country's politics. And anyway, so she moved to the UK, and then from the UK she came to coach us.
Right. How did that change your whole routine and just your whole...
Oh, it was so great to have... she was so organized and so prepared, and she has this wealth of knowledge, like in so many certification. Her CV is like so good. Like she just has so much knowledge, and she doesn't shout. She doesn't sugarcoat things either. And there were some times where it was like the hardest session, and she would be like, I just don't think you guys are trying hard enough. And you're like, oh my God, like if I'm not trying hard, what am I doing? Because she knows she's experienced a way higher level, and she's been through it herself, of a level that, pushing the limits more and more. She knows what's capable. She was just so good at everything, and she just had a different method, and it's very like the basics and simple, but so effective. And you think to yourself, like, why didn't we think of that before? And it makes so much sense. And she doesn't show emotion well, especially in the beginning. You couldn't read her, but once we got to know her more, we could read her. And so I think that is a good quality to have as a coach, because you don't know, like you just don't know. So you push hard. She doesn't get angry. She doesn't get upset. So it's just like, and you're just like, okay, I'll just try harder then. I'll just so it's quite neutral. So the emotions aren't there, and she takes the emotion out very quickly. And I found that training with her, we are quite emotional.
Oh, so having experienced training with her, you found that you are an emotional.
We are quite emotional.
What about you is...
in terms of, like, we're quite dramatic. And for her, it's like everything it's business. Like,
it's regimental.
She would come to training and say, okay, guys, like, listen, we can't talk anymore in training because it's taking up too much time. And we were like, what? Like, we can't have chats. We can't talk. It's too much time. You're wasting too much time. We need to train. We just can't talk. And we were like, oh. Then when Jess and I experienced this with...
Jess is now your partner that you're training, your duet partner that you're training with for the Olympics.
Yes, new for 2024. Yeah. And so we experienced this when we had to swim with the team for Doha. And we had now been accustomed to that. We don't really talk much in training. We train and we do what we need to do. You can talk as much as you want afterwards, it's different vibe, whatever, but when we had training, no talk. And then we trained with them, and they wasted half an hour just discussing one thing.
These are the little girls, the 16.
Well, no. When we went, we were going to Doha, and we had to swim in a team.
Oh, okay,
of 8 of us, yeah. Oh. And we were discussing one thing, and Jess and I were just like, okay, let's just do it. We don't need to discuss this for 5 hours. So we understood then that what she was talking about. We didn't know it, and we were like, how can she tell us we can't talk? Until we experienced it, and we realized that we waste so much time as South Africans. We're very social. Right. Keep going, and so you waste a lot of time chatting instead of, working. So when she comes with, like, her being strict, there's a purpose, and she's not being unreasonable. So that was that. And then, as we got to know her and a lot of things happened politically, she was, she spoke out for us.
Again,
when
politically
we couldn't.
within your federation,
Yes.
Swim SA.
And she didn't think, what makes a good coach is when you do what's best for the athletes. And you don't think about consequences and stuff.
Your own personal consequences, right?
And so, when you realize a coach really cares about you when they do what's best for you. And she spoke out for us. And, we didn't ask her to. She did it regardless of what it might do to her career as a coach, or how she would be seen to other people. And, for me, that was like, I hadn't experienced that kind of, I know that Vicky and Reem would probably do exactly the same, but Cece, she doesn't care like what people think, and what she does,
what's best for you.
Yes, and she just it was a very selfless thing, when she spoke out for us. And it's really not known in the synchro world that you speak up against the federation.
Wow.
It's you don't. People
Wow.
don't, because they're afraid.
Wow.
And she did, and she spoke out on social media, and she stood up for us, and she stood up for herself.
Being disqualified for Olympics.
No, before that, just like how we were being treated, and what they were doing to us, and just like coaches taking credit for stuff they don't.
They shouldn't be taking credit for.
Yeah.
Right.
And stuff that the federation's doing that people should know about.
Right.
And that you get threatened if you talk about it.
Right.
And I'm a free agent, so I can talk about it since the 1st of May.
Oh, that's good. So Laura, we're gonna do part 2, but to end off now, no Olympics for you.
No, sadly not.
Sadly, you could have qualified. Let it be put out there. But sadly, no, we can get to that on round 2 if people want to know the story.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. But the future now is coaching for you.
Yeah.
Coaching and giving back to those 16, 18-year-old kids, your experience.
Yeah. And my little ones. I have little ones.
You got little ones?
I have 9, 10 little ones.
Oh, lovely.
And they love it.
Okay.
And they're so sweet. They look like they're drowning, but they're so sweet.
Okay.
But yes, I think so. I'm still nervous to fully go into it, because I know it takes a lot from you as a person, and I've given a lot. So I don't know how much I'm gonna be involved in terms of having a full-on club. But I think definitely giving back, or doing lessons or clinics and stuff like that.
Yes.
A lot of. And then, just take it as it comes.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm not really, not 100% sure how much yet.
Okay.
I do know that I want to go and work overseas with some international clubs or whatever, because I still feel like I have so much to learn.
Sure.
So I do want to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Laura.
Thanks for having me and all my tears.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you for just being vulnerable. Thank you for being vulnerable. I really do appreciate that, because I think that your story resonates with me. There's parts in your story that, I think that was quite clearly evident. but I believe that your story will resonate to a lot of young girls, you know, and not only girls, but I think your story, I think needing someone to be there in your most vulnerable moments, needing that friend, needing that mother figure when you're most vulnerable by that pool, I think was your coaches, Vicky, forget that, Cece and Reem. I think those were the people in your life that were really those people, and I think that a lot of people in South Africa and all over the world, I think, are in a similar position where the people that are close to them might not necessarily be your own family, blood family, but other people. You know? And I think that it's important to acknowledge that. And so thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's been emotional, but that's how, when you talk about someone's life, I think that's what it is. Life is not just linear. It's not just a series of events on a straight line. There's a lot of offshoots that bring in emotion and all those type of things. So
you
thank you.
You can keep the crying out of mine. Don't
Thanks,
cut
Matt.
it out.